But when you hold the reins a little less tightly, you can look to God for guidance. That's when He can really guide you to go where He wants you to go. Have you experienced a miracle in your life? Or maybe the miracle was through a family member or a close friend. Last Sunday, I listened to Dr. Philip Lin share about miracles he has experienced in his own life as a Christian. And I wanted to share this with you guys because we all need miracles in our lives, especially in these trying times. And although this is not like my usual vlog, I really wanted to vlog about this because we need to see that there is still beauty in the world and that Jesus is in control and that He can take care of you if you let Him. You may be going through something difficult. Maybe you've lost your job or your health or someone that you love. And this is why I wanted to share our story, my story with you. You see, my husband and I recently experienced a series of miracles from the Lord. And through our story, we want to encourage you to trust the Lord and work in faith. Indeed, your prayers can come true if you believe. First, let's establish what is a miracle. A miracle is defined as a surprising and welcome event that can't be explained by the laws of nature and is therefore considered to be the work of a divine agency. In his preaching, Dr. Lin shared 4 steps on how to make miracles come true for you. So the first step is to look to Jesus. First, look with your heart. I always had a very independent, do-it-yourself personality, and so when I would be faced with challenges, I would usually depend on myself or my resources or other people's resources to help me overcome it. Even when I became a Christian, I was still very self-dependent. I would depend on myself or other people first and look to the Lord as a last resort. When in fact, I was supposed to do the opposite and look to Jesus first. Then my D group leader told me, you know, Alex, you are generous and you have a kind heart. But I noticed that you're too self-sufficient. You often look to others or yourself when faced with a challenge. Why don't you try seeking the Lord first? And when she told me this, I was surprised. I thought I was already being a good Christian. I didn't even notice that I still had this habit of being too self-dependent. But you know, Christianity is a journey and you improve at every step. So I tried to make it a habit to seek out the Lord first, especially with business. Whenever I needed to make a business decision or had a tough transaction, I would pray to the Lord for guidance. Of course, I would still ask other people for advice, but the difference this time was I would ask the Lord first. Before the pandemic hit, our businesses were doing well. But once the pandemic came to town, it was a disaster. We lost everything. You see, we own 2 gaming cafes and a coffee shop, and because of the pandemic, we had to close everything down. So when you get wiped out financially, what do you do? Do you call a relative for a loan, or do you try to put up another business? Or do you try to save your existing business with everything you've got? Frankly, we didn't know what to do. It happened so quickly, we were at a complete loss. So we looked to God for guidance. We told Him, Lord, these are your businesses. We are just your stewards. You are the real owner. And if you decide to take them back, it's okay. We know you have a different plan for us. We trust you and we will follow you. When you hold on too tightly to someone or something, when you are too fixated in a particular job or business, you will fail to see the greater blessings and the other opportunities that the Lord wants to give you. But when you hold the reins a little less tightly, you can look to God for guidance. That's when He can really guide you to go where He wants you to go. The second thing is to look beyond God's non-response. At first, when you pray for something, God might seem silent or unresponsive, but just persevere. In time, He will answer your prayer. Mark 11:24 tells us that, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. When we closed down our computer cafe and coffee shop, we were left with a lot of debts that we had to pay for. We had a business loan, a car loan from our suppliers. Our businesses were supposed to pay for all of these, but now that we had closed shop, we had to pay for it. And how were we going to pay for the millions that we owed? We didn't know how yet, but we prayed about it. A lot of times, God might seem silent, but He is actually at work. So instead of expecting for your circumstances to change in an instant, be patient. Continue to pray and allow Him to work miracles in your life. We believed that by God's grace, we would be able to pay off everything in due time. Number 3 is look to obey what He says. When you pray to God, He will give you guidance, and we felt that God's leading for us was to use what we had. Although we no longer had our computer cafe and our coffee shop, we still had another income source, and that was the brokerage. Also, we still had the computers. They were assets that we could sell. And so that's what we did. We focused on the brokerage. We created a system to make it more efficient. We hired a multimedia assistant to help us with the vlog, the marketing collaterals. We hired an executive assistant to help, streamline all our processes. So it all picked up from there. Also, since we had 2 branches, we focused on selling all the computers of one branch first. We had about 60 computers in one branch. It took us several months to do it, but by God's grace, we were able to sell all our computers in our first branch last year. So now we only had the other branch to think of, our second branch, the Foundry, which was newer. We opened it on March 2019, and when COVID hit in March of 2020, we were forced to close it down. So since it was only operational for 1 year, we weren't able to recoup our investments. We tried selling it last year, but it didn't sell as fast as the other branch because the market felt that it was too expensive. So when you feel that you're stuck, what do you do? And this brings me to my last point. Look to step out in faith and to receive. There are times when we are forced to step outside our comfort zones, but we can also use this chance to step out in faith. When we lost our businesses, we were left with debts to pay, but we had faith that it would all work out in the end. They say that when you walk with God, you may not be storm-free, but you will be storm-proof. And this is exactly what my husband and I experienced. We felt that although we were in the midst of chaos, a recession, global lockdown, the pandemic, we were in this little bubble made safe by Jesus. Our faith kept us strong and at peace. Aside from the debts we had to pay, we also wanted to buy a lot in the uptown area to build our home. When we got married 3 years ago, we decided to rent versus buy a house first because we wanted to focus our funds in building our businesses. But life had other plans. Now that we have a 1-year-old, we need more space because I plan to homeschool Rain by next year. Also, since we're now focusing on the brokerage, we need a proper home office and a vlogging studio for me so I can keep sharing content like these with you guys. So if you look at our situation, it wasn't really ideal for us to buy a lot at the time since we had a lot of debts to pay for. Plus, we wanted to buy our lot in cash so that we would only need to get a loan on the house construction. So in order to do that, we would have to save 2 million pesos in 6 months. So where would we get that amount in such a short period of time? But as Dr. Lynn said, look to step out in faith and receive. So we did just that. We did what we could using what we had. And this is where the miracles happened. We closed shop by May 2020. By December of 2020, we were able to sell all our pieces in the first branch and fully pay for our business loan. By January of 2021, we were able to fully pay for our car loan for the car which we bought in November of 2019. And remember that we were having trouble disposing our computers in the second branch? Just last month, a friend of ours introduced us to a BPO company who needed a lot of PCs, and because of the pandemic, they couldn't get PCs from their supplier. So they ended up renting all our remaining computers for 12 months, and then they would buy it after the lease term. Through this transaction, we would be able to recoup the capital we put in this business and make a little profit. And lastly, remember our goal of saving for the lot? Well, it's only January and we already have a quarter of the amount we need to pay for the lot. Isn't God amazing? We would never have been able to do any of this without Him. Looking back at year 2020, it has been a year of resilience and faith for us. So if you're like us, if you're going through a tough patch right now, don't lose hope. Look to Jesus first. Look beyond His non-response, look to obey what He says, and look to step out in faith and to receive. If you do this, faith will erupt, and God will break through your life in a powerful way. I hope I was able to make a positive impact to you today, and I'll see you in my next vlog.